Good morning, Heidi. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Leonie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited today because you're going to interview me today.
Absolutely, it's all about you today.
I would like to say it's all about us today and all about what the listeners are going to learn from this podcast as well. So welcome everyone who's listening at the moment. I have Heidi Winney here. She is the business owner, executive career coach of a business called Strategic Career Development. And so Heidi is going to interview me, focusing on the career change that I made from my HR career where I was working at Westpac before starting my own business. So the career change from being a HR professional to becoming a business owner. And for ideas for you to consider if you are thinking of considering a career change in your career. So Heidi, back to you.
Okay. Well, Leonie and I first met about 10 years or so ago. And how we met was as we are both professional members of the Career Development Association of Australia, we would have met, or did meet rather, at a professional development event. And since then, we have caught up regularly. We have regularly shared knowledge. We've asked questions of each other's where we didn't know something and supported each other. And Leonie is one of the most multifaceted career coaches I know. And she's also an expert in public sector applications and in interviews. She is a true entrepreneur and one of the most supportive people I know, always willing to share her knowledge and her expertise with others, and myself included. So Leonie, I'll hand back to you now to tell the audience more about your career and your business journey.
Yes, I will do it in 1 second. I just wanted to also mention that how I know Heidi, as Heidi mentioned, that about 10 years ago, part of the Career Development Association of Australia, I attended a professional development event, and I remember meeting her vividly for the very first time. And she said to me recently, I don't know if that person remembers me. I said, no, of course I remember you. I remembered you when I first met you. It was such an incredible first impression. So it's been a long journey, and beginning of 2019, we worked together, part of the Creative Careers Entrepreneurs Network. There is Heidi and also Leonie Stanfield, who is part of this network, where we get together once every 2 months online, on the phone, on Zoom at the moment, and we talk about our business and our practice and how can we improve and what have we learned so we can then improve our practices to then give back to the clients that we work with. So just a tiny bit about our relationship. Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
So just a bit about my background. So prior to being a career coach, I had a career in HR, where the last role I had in HR before starting my business was at Westpac, where I was recruiting as an internal recruitment consultant at Westpac, and I thoroughly enjoyed that role, and I certainly enjoyed helping people find work internally at Westpac. And so during those first initial years, from the time of about 25 to 29, that's where I had the idea of my focus, and I started it on the side. But I felt a great sense of joy working with professionals and helping them navigate through their careers, and as Heidi said, the interview preparation and helping them get the job. Now, how then did I go from being in a HR role and then going into business? It took about, I went away actually on a meditation retreat for 5 days, a silent meditation retreat in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales, Australia. And I actually came out of that 5-day meditation and just had the aha moment that, you know what, if I can be quiet for 5 days, I can do anything. There's no fear. Let's go out there and just do what you want to do in your life. So I then started my focus full time. And so that transition from the HR career to being a business owner, I had the support of the government. I was part of a program called the New Enterprise Incentive Scheme, and I had a business mentor, and hence that supported me in establishing my business in the first year. And then now we're 11 years later, I'm still in business as a career coach, as a trainer, delivering trainings in organizations. So combination of career coaching and training. That's my background. Thanks, Heidi.
All right, so that's a very, very interesting journey. And what's fascinating is that it took a silent meditation retreat for you to really think about what you want next. And it's so important that people want to make a change. It's so important for them to have that space, to have a space where they can actually think, what do I really want to do versus what I'm doing now? What's working for me? What's not working for me? So you obviously went through that during that 5 days silently. So very interesting. So the next question is, we often work with people who are going through a transition from one career to another. You've transitioned from HR to becoming a business owner. What was that like for you? What was the actual physical transition how did you feel about it when you started?
Yes, it was very hard and quite confronting, because all of my friends around me at that time, at the age of about 29, had, established careers, and they worked 9 to 5. So everyone had that kind of, whether they're an accountant or whether they were in sales, whether they were an engineer, or they had proper, the traditional careers, and they were progressing in their careers. And at 29, I'm like, you know what, I'm not satisfied in a HR career. So it was really somewhat even like lonely, because no one was going through what I was going through. So you feel this emptiness inside. And I wish I had a career coach actually to coach me at that point in time, because that would have been a really interesting to have that conversation and bounce ideas with people. But I had a few good friends who I bounced ideas with people, and I did a lot of self-reflection, Heidi. So for about 6 to 12 months, asking myself the question, am I an employee or am I a business owner, entrepreneur? Who am I? And so these working identities, it was so hard, because being like attached to the working identity of a HR consultant, it's really appealing. You tell people, you're a HR consultant, and then no one around me at that time, I didn't know any other career coaches at that point in time. I was the only career coach in my network. So it's like, well, it's a bit out of your comfort zone to go into a career that you don't know anyone who works in that field. So certainly it was, the fears were all there, the fear of the unknown, the fear of, can you even make it in business? Would clients even like you? You don't even know what you're talking about. So there's so many fears, that self-doubt. A lot of times we work with clients that all have this self-doubt in themselves. And so I after that 5-day silent retreat, it was all about just give it a go. Give it a go and see how far you can go. A lot of times we don't give ourselves a chance, or to even think about it, to even explore. So it was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah. It definitely is hard when you make a transition from a company like Westpac, where it's relatively safe. Not that anything is totally safe, but you get your weekly paycheck or monthly paycheck or whatever you get. And in some ways, you've got colleagues around you that you can always chat with. And then suddenly, when you become a business owner, you have to become very self-reliant. And so you mentioned earlier that you had a business mentor that helped you a bit as far as the courage needed, I guess, to really make your own business work. And it does take a lot of courage. It's not something that is easy. And so the working identities is also really interesting, because if you look at people at work, you may have identified at the time when you were within the finance and banking industry, you worked for a major corporation, and your identity was probably somewhat caught up with, I work for Westpac, I'm in HR, fantastic. And you would have been really able to identify with that. And then when you changed, you had to find another identity, which was different to what you had before. How did you get that transition going?
I think one of the things that works for me during that time, and even in my next career change, which has happened, which we'll talk about in a moment, is that to give things a go and then get feedback from people, get feedback from your clients that did, coach them on their resume or wrote their resume, did it work? Coach them on their interview skills, did that work? How do they feel? And then when you see results with your clients succeeding, as you know, in their job search, in their career, then that feedback then reinforces whether you are on track or not on your path. With the identity part, as you mentioned, I just knew that I loved the joy of the feeling when a client calls you and say, you know what, Leonie, I just got the job. It's the best feeling, and that's the emotion I really enjoyed throughout my HR career, where I really helped people navigate and succeed in their career aspirations. So that's where I slowly over time build my confidence through gaining feedback from people that I work with.
Yes, very good points. And really, one of the things that both you and I do is to help people identify where they really want to be next. So the working identity, sometimes when you ask people, where would you like to go next? They're not sure. They say, well, it doesn't really matter. We're quite happy to work in any company, but it does matter. Because you may not identify with, say, for instance, the gambling industry, or you may not identify with finance. So you've really got to think, what is the identity? What is your identity, and where would you be happy? So, and yeah, that's certainly part of what we do as a career coach. Yeah. All right. So one of the things that you also do is deliver meditation and mindfulness programs. Very effective. Tell us a little bit about that, and how did you start that?
Yes, this is the second career change, Heidi.
Yep.
And I have been nervous about this in the past year, but it started when COVID started, which is last year, with a client that I spoke to on the phone, and I said to him, "Hi, Paul. I'm just wondering, what do you think of this program, meditation program, and just to guide clients on the phone once or twice a week? What do you think?" And then Paul said, "I'll be your first client." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, bring it on. I'll be your first client." And so he has been my client since April last year until now. We meditate twice a week. I guide him in the meditation. One is guided, one is a pure silent meditation on the phone. And he's a changed man as a result of meditation. And in terms of mindfulness, I have to share this with you and everyone who's listening. I had the idea, and I presented the idea to a client in Victoria who is a professional association called NISA. And the client said to me, "Yeah, Leonie, just email me the marketing and your learning objectives, and I'll think about it. And if it sounds good, yeah, we run it." So he said, "Yep, that's perfect. Let's give it a go." And we have been running those webinars since mid last year. It's been one of the best webinars I've delivered. And last week, Heidi, the good news was through CPA Australia, part of one of their discussion groups, I was a speaker. We had 300 registrations.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing.
300 registrations for the webinar, which means that right now, during this in Sydney, Australia, we are in a lockdown, about 12, 13 weeks. The people are interested in this topic, mindfulness meditation, more than ever.
Yes.
Yes. I am also, I deliver these mindfulness webinars on a monthly basis. So I know that's my second career change. And just to go back to the topic, purpose of this topic is that I was nervous about going into this space. I'm still a career coach. I'm still a facilitator, trainer, but moving into this space is certainly out of my comfort zone. And over time, just spending a bit of time whether in developing these programs, getting the feedback from clients, it's working. I've received numerous messages today and very recently about the webinar I delivered last week. Getting that feedback, you know whether you are on track or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think 300 registration is absolutely amazing. And it does say a lot about not only your effectiveness, but also there is a desperate need at this time when we're all in lockdown. And, you know, I think your sense of timing is excellent. It couldn't be better. Yeah, no, that's really good. Next question, what is a book that you really like and like to give away, and why? Why is that?
Yes, I've got the book here. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People with Dale Carnegie. And one of my business classic. I've read this book twice, and I've only read a few books twice. You've read this book, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it was
twice.
Very effective.
Yes.
Well, I think for a business owner, it's a fantastic resource, and also personally.
Yes. So why, your question as well as to why would I give this book? I see, do not judge a book by its title. First step. It certainly teaches you the principles of building good relationships, communicating effectively, and really establishing long-term relationships with people at work, in your personal life as well. And certainly, I'll just read out one of the principles that I value in this book, and that is to remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. So the name is so powerful, as you know, and at interviews, great strategy to say thank you, Leonie, for the interview. Thank you, Heidi, for the interview. Using people's names at a job interview. When you meet someone for the first time, the first 7 seconds, Heidi, it's lovely to meet you. So it is such a simple technique, and yet so powerful that it works. It works all the principles. So I'd love to give this book to people as a gift.
That's fantastic. That's really good. So one other question for you is, what is one thing that you do every day that makes you happier and more productive in your work and life?
Yes, this question I ask all of my speakers on the podcast channel. And I think if you're listening right now, certainly you probably have got a clue as to what it is that I'm going to say, and that is meditation. And that practicing meditation has changed my life. I have a podcast that I released in March this year on 1,000 days of meditation, the lessons I learned in that. And I use an app called Insight Timer to actually initially track my first 365 days of meditation, and then as a result, 1,000 days of meditation. Meditation, some people think, it's Leonie. One of my friends says, I can't meditate, okay? Don't get me to meditate. I'm like, let me guide you. She's like, you got to clear your thoughts. I'm like, no, it's not about clearing your thoughts. It's about just focusing, closing your eyes and just focus on your breathing. Focus on your breathing and just be with yourself. Connect with what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And there are so many different types of meditation that enables you to clear that, to sort of like, not clear the mind, but to slow the mind down, relax it, not nourish the mind. And so just to give everyone an analogy, simply, your laptop, right? If you run out of battery, what do? you charge it. You can't function without charging it. You have to charge it, right?
That's right. Yep.
So, but we will charge it because it's a physical item and it requires you to charge and for it to work. Our minds we can't see, so we don't think, you know what, just sleep. Sleep is, my father will say, sleep is the best meditation. So nourish your mind. Take time out, 1 minute a day, 3 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day. Over time, you build it up to 10, 15 minutes a day. This morning, I've meditated for half an hour this morning with a dear friend, a meditation friend, Min. And so certainly it makes the biggest difference. Just give it a go. And if you're listening and interested in the mindfulness webinar, I run it every month at the moment. So certainly I'd love to share my experiences with you and help you nourish your mind and master your mind to master your life.
Some excellent insights there. And it's interesting what you've said. You start off slowly. I think too often we think, okay, so we're going to have to set aside 15 minutes, and in those 15 minutes, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And that's, in other words, empty my mind. First of all, that isn't possible to empty your mind, as you so rightly say. It's about quietening down, it seems, rather than, and maybe focusing on breath, which obviously is one of the techniques. And there are a number of others that perhaps also work, and I'm sure you cover those too. But it's starting slowly and then building it up over time. And that's obviously what's helped you over the last few years since you've been doing this yourself. So yeah, very, very good insights. And overall, I think you've covered a lot of ground in your career in the last 11 years, I think you said, since you left Westpac. You started off probably using your expertise from HR to make a transition into the career coaching side, which is very much what I did too, because I recognized HR wasn't working for me anymore in the corporate environment. So I needed to get out. My transition wasn't as easy as yours, but it was nevertheless a good one, because we are in a helping profession. We love to help people, and because we've been there, we're able to share our knowledge and our own experiences with people. And you've been extremely courageous in making changes all along the way. You haven't just stayed with one thing. You've pivoted into the meditation and mindfulness space, which is such an important part of our lives today. So yeah, well done, Leonie. Lots of risk taking, recognizing opportunities. Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you so much, Heidi. It's been a wonderful interview. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I'll just want to mention that Heidi and I actually published a podcast called Strategies to Manage Your Career, and that was on the 12th of July this year. So please, for the listeners, please, my audience, go back to the previous podcast on the 12th of July, Strategies to Manage Your Career. And Heidi gives us really profound insights and ideas around how the strategies to manage your career and network. And there's also, we mentioned the marketing plan as well. So from here onwards, if you'd like to reach out to myself and or Heidi, I'll provide the details in the content of the podcast and the videos. But certainly, Heidi is an executive career coach, and if you want like to learn more about Heidi, please have a look at her LinkedIn profile and my profile and my website as well. And we do also have another speaker coming up in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned, everyone. Thank you so much for following this podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, thank you, and I look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you, Leonie.
All right, cheers. Thanks.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.